I have the amazing luxury of 4 days to myself. Love Jess to pieces, and we have spent a lot of time together this year doing this big road trip, and I don't often get time all to myself. So here I am. She's down in Sydney with her dad for 4 days, coming back on Saturday with a friend for a week, and I have got plans to do lots of work mostly. I've just started an online course, Getting Started Using Artificial Intelligence for Human Resources. Really excited about this program. Now, whether you think it's coming fast or coming slow, there is no doubt that automation, artificial intelligence are changing the way we work and live. I mean, look at my attempts to get Google Home set up and helping me with some productivity tasks a couple of weeks ago, which really didn't live up to my expectations. But nonetheless, I'm going to discover and explore through this course a whole stack of ways that artificial intelligence is being used for human resources. So it covers the full scope of human resource activity along the whole kind of what they call the employee value chain. From recruitment all the way through to learning and development, of course, which is my key interest, and employee engagement. And it sounds like it's going to be really heavily case study based, introduce me to a whole stack of tools. I'm super excited. Just introducing myself online, and the first activity, which is really fun, I'd love to do this for future courses that I set up, is to geotag myself. And at the moment, I am the only one in Australia. There I've added myself to the map, and in fact, there's only one other person in the Southern Hemisphere, and that is Amalia from Argentina. There's something really fascinating about being able to see where everybody is and to click on the links and discover a little bit more about the other people doing the program. So I've done my navigation, done my intro, and later today, probably tonight, I'll get started with the week 1 content. Got a handyman in today. The roof, the ceiling here has leaked from the ceiling above it, building defect. So the handyman's here. He's actually doing a pretty good job. I love the fact that he's covered everything properly. Fortunately, I don't have to pay for it. The building developers do. But the dog isn't real pleased about the disturbance. She's trying to figure out what is happening. What is happening, Bella? It's all very unusual, isn't it? Let's go have lunch. He is, so let's do the same. So the AITD's Social and Collaborative Learning Essentials course has kicked off. Each of these tiles represents 1 unit in the course. You can see 8 units, 1 week per unit, and I'm facilitating the course. So the platform being used for this is Curatr, where you curate or source content from a range of sources, predominantly on the internet. So let's see, for example, in this particular case, there's a piece of content which you open from the platform, but it takes you out, in this case, to a post on LinkedIn by Julian Stodd, 10 tips for designing effective social learning. So that resource is available and is accessed. And then there's a discussion question within Curatr that I add to the resource. Part of the beauty of this, or the trick to it, to get it right, is to organise the content and describe the content in a meaningful way that takes people through a series of concepts and makes sense, as well as the discussion being structured in a way that adds value. So I review and refresh the content every time I run this course. I didn't do the original curation that was done by Pat Phillips last year, but I've run the course once and did an initial refresh. I did it week by week, but this time, because I'm familiar with the course, I'm spending some time this week getting all of the content up to date, which should streamline my facilitation as we go further in, which is good because we've got more participants this time. We've got 13 participants, which I'm really pleased about. I've also been preparing the slides for the first webinar for the program, which I'll be running on Thursday. I do 3 webinars. So this one is a little bit of an introduction to the platform, to the course, to the requirements. And then we look at some theories relating to social learning, both some slightly older theories, as well as looking at some more modern theorists and practitioners before going on to talk about the action learning project. So I am all ready for the webinar now. I love the flexibility of this course and the interactive nature of it. I love the fact that it's over 8 weeks, so people can really get to grips with the content, can learn from each other, can share more ideas and resources, and can also apply the content. And the overall objective or outcome should be that all the participants develop a social learning strategy or update their broader organisational learning strategy with the social element or component, and present that back to the rest of the group in the final webinar. So it's very applied, and I was really delighted with the quality of the different solutions and approaches that the participants on the last course built into their social learning strategies. So super excited that this is kicking off again. I love this space. So I've just made a video. Everybody's asked to do an introduction via video to themselves and put it up on the Curatr platform for the AATD course. And it's quite dark outside. I'll show you in a moment. It looks a bit stormy, but I liked the light coming in through the window, although I had to position my body sort of like this to hide the kitchen in the background. I've also been out shopping. I realised I've got to take the dog to the vet a couple of times this week, and Jess isn't here, so I've got to be able to carry her safely in the car on my own, so I had to get a little cage for her. I also took the opportunity to get a collar, because she's going to need to go on a collar and lead soon, I guess, as part of puppy school, and I tried putting it on her. She hated it. I can see this is going to be a struggle. You can see how grey it is outside. It's been a bit grey and drizzly all day. But really, in the 5 weeks I've lived here, this is the first grey day we've had, which isn't bad. So I had an interesting conversation this evening for about an hour with someone who's in my network who reached out to me. He's based in the UK, and we've kind of followed each other and had a few exchanges online. And recently I've been posting some of my daily snap stories, my vlogs, about this quest I'm on to reshape my business model. And he works for himself. He's in the learning and development profession, so there was a common interest there, and he reached out and asked to Skype with me, which I'm really appreciative of. One of the tips he had for me, which he shared last week via an email, was to listen to this podcast from Seth Godin's Startup School. And these are segments from a workshop that he ran in 2012 with a number of entrepreneurs who wanted to build businesses. And he's just basically taken the recordings and put them out in a series of podcasts. It's been really helpful. He's a top-notch thinker and really helpful to get his thoughts on different types of business models, different ways of engaging, different ways of differentiating yourself. So one of the concepts that Seth Godin talks about, it's the idea that we live in a connection economy, and some businesses are just built solely around connecting people to other people, and he uses Google search as an example. You've got people who are surfing for something and people who want to be surfed and found, and Google just connects them. It's not involved directly. No one's having a conversation with the founder of Google. They're just providing a place for people to connect. And that's got me thinking about, who could I connect and how, or could I help people to connect better, maybe building connecting capability. So Jane Hart used to talk a bit, I think she still does, about being a learning concierge at L&D, could be a learning concierge. So I'm wondering if there's a role potentially for me as a learning concierge for L&D, or that, I help to connect learning and development to resources, to others, help them to understand the future through connection, and maybe there's something as part of my product ecosystem around this idea of being a learning concierge and building a community around it. I've got one job left that's been hanging over my head for a couple of days, writing a description for a proposed workshop at a conference, another writing task, go figure. Okay, so here I am sitting grappling again with a writing task, writing something You know, writing proposals is not too bad. I'm okay with proposals. You know, writing daily dispatches where there's not too much pressure. Where I'm writing for marketing or writing to influence opinion, I'm telling myself, the story I tell myself is that it's hard and I'm struggling to cut through. I need a better story because that story is just getting in my way. I'll have a little think about that and see what I can do to get through that kind of mental block that I'm putting in my own way. Anyway, I'm signing off Snapchat, focusing on this, have my cup of tea, and then indulge in a little bit of that artificial intelligence course as a treat before I go to bed. Looking forward to that.